Okay, so we can call this meeting to order. This is a meeting of the ARPA Commission on October 2nd, 2023 at 1:30 in the afternoon. And roll call is the first thing on the agenda, and I believe that we are missing Stu Fisher, Samantha Hills, Stu Cobb, and Robin Sanders. But quorum is 5, and we have 5 here. So I think we're good to proceed. The first thing on the agenda is approval of minutes from June 26th. And I don't.
I did send them around.
Yeah, I saw
I
that.
and I filed them, so. we
Yeah.
can-
Yeah, I saw
I
it.
sent them around. Oops.
Oh,
I did send them to her.
Yeah.
she was at the counter and she didn't, I said, have you seen these? She said, no, so I can't. So they definitely got done right away. So I'll move to approve the minutes from June 26th.
Second. Any discussion about those minutes? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? All right, so those pass. And then the next one is September 18th.
I didn't send those.
No, okay. Great,
I'm working on it.
okay, thank you. We'll get those next time, and that was just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
We have on our agenda 6 projects that are ready to close. And we can go one by one, making motions to close them. You want to do that? And I'll make a motion for the first one, to close ARPA 3 SCBA air packs. It was approved in March of 2022 for $137,000. It was completed with $21,106.57 unspent and available to be reallocated. So the motion is to close it and return $21,106.57 back to our available funds.
I'll second.
Any discussion about that?
So just for consistency in the minutes, it's to return, close ARPA 3 and return $21,106.57 to Fund 19.
Mm-hmm, the Fund 19, yep.
ARPA 5.
ARPA 5, did I say?
No,
Yeah.
Mike said 3.
Oh, I
That's
might
what
have,
she said.
I might have said 3. I can't.
It's ARPA 5.
It needs to be like way up
Accept a
there.
friendly amendment.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
And that's great. I think
I
there should be others.
I will move to close ARPA 6 generator for DPW. And return $21,323 to Fund 19.
Second,
21,000.
21,323. I'm just double checking that's what that is Donna's books. Okay.
I was with my glasses on that. That doesn't mean I,
Did you second that, Christina?
yes, I seconded it. Any discussion about that one?
Cool.
Thanks for coming in. So much under budget for.
Yes.
All right, all in favor?
I
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstained? Okay, you can move on. You can see it says ARPA 13.
will move to close ARPA 13 devices for town and senior center and return $7,825.80 to Fund 19.
Any discussion about that one? Also a nice chunk of movement. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone
Mike, do you
opposed
vote?
or abstaining? No. All right, ARPA 16.
The big one. I move to close ARPA 16 radios for fire department use and return $23.13 to Fund 19.
Any discussion about that?
I think this is good. I didn't think they were gonna be right to the pennies, but I think $23.
Yeah. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Who seconded that?
I think we're good.
Thank you. I moved it. All right,
All right, ARPA 20.
I'll move to close ARPA 20 new furnace for Firehouse Wellington Hill Fire Department and return $320 to Fund 19.
Is there, I'll second that. And any discussion about that one? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Abstentions? No, okay. Then ARPA 23, ARPA 32.
I will move to close ARPA 32 town employee retention and return $4,241.95 to Fund 19.
A second. Any discussion about that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I don't think there's any abstentions or no, so we're done with closing our project. So Donna, how much in total is that that's going back into Fund 19? You had it, I know you did.
So it is. No. This batch returned $54,870.45.
I'm sorry. Oops. Can you give me that again, Donna? 54.
$840.45.
Hey, that's a good chunk. And also 6 projects off the list. The goal is to be able to put this agenda on one page.
Wow.
Eventually.
Well, so I'm really proud of the fact that we've been able to do so much
Yeah,
in addition to our normal operating budget with these funds. And almost every budget has come in, under budget. So once again, it shows that, you know, while we need these large ticket items and they're beneficial to the town, that we're always still working, to save some dollars. But I don't wanna give a penny back
right,
at the end of this, so,
right, so.
some project may need to fund from a budget
Mhm.
so that we don't get any dollars back.
Yep. There was great. Just, we talked about, I think, every single thing on the previously funded list that's still like in play at the last meeting, and I tried to update this as best I could. I don't know if there's anything that we need to talk about again on here. But
These all have to be approved, right?
No,
they're all approved.
there's only two that we
They're ready.
haven't taken action on.
Yeah, the two at the end, the gutters
Yeah, yeah.
and the playground, those are the only two that we've had public hearings on, and that we're waiting for funds to be available
We're just waiting for these other projects.
to finish, to know how much money's coming back. But also to make sure that they do finish before we can't use the money anymore. Sometimes.
Yeah, so I'm concerned about timing on some of those, mainly the one at the park, right? That's, could take a long time, but if they're pretty close to getting an RFP out, it can be done next summer. I think that takes care of
Yeah,
us encumbering the funds and then spending. The rest of them are pretty not construction heavy.
no. No, I mean, if we were to approve either the library or the center school, then that, but the rest of them are, some are gonna naturally get used up in this fiscal year.
I hope the facility study, the E-code and the economic development strategy should be, I don't know where it fills out with the extended learning.
Yeah,
Where did we leave off with the stove? I saw it. The stove.
so,
Are they just waiting for someone to say yes, they can spend that money on an accessory?
I think so, or did they just move on? Because it was,
I haven't
Couple
seen
months ago.
a request for it.
have you done, like, did they purchase those things already?
They didn't, they wanna make sure that they have the blessing of commission
Mhm.
before they do it.
Okay.
So they have your email.
Mhm.
That was
Okay.
very nice.
Oh, that was, yeah, from the beginning of the summer, right? when
Yeah,
they
yeah,
asked.
way back to Ed Degata.
Yeah, so does he, so they haven't been able to use the stove then, this whole time?
I don't know, they have a breakfast coming
They
up.
are, yes, they do. They have a breakfast coming up. They haven't been able to use the stove after the last meeting.
Mhm.
I got stopped by my office and asked if it was okay. And I told him there was not a decision that was made, to give him the go-ahead to purchase the accessories. And he did say, okay, he's hoping that's going to be approved at this meeting. And then he will purchase them for the breakfast coming up.
Okay. And, but the question was to him, can you use the stove without, like, is it
Can
like,
you use the stove?
like there's special things that you can only use with that stove? That's,
Right, is this an unintended consequence of buying new stoves, that they need different size pans, or is it they can only have these pans to go with this stove? And I see it as if they need very specific pans, then that maybe is something we should consider. If they just now need new size pans, that's an expense, a different expense than the stove project itself, is how I see it. Because I think many of our projects could find other ways to use the dollars and didn't return the funds.
right. And then the flip side of that is that it's not very much.
Right, but, right, yeah, and I get that, but you know,
Yeah.
again, it's not, as if the senior center is without funds
Right,
at the
right.
same time.
Did he indicate?
Oh, he is hoping, Christina, that, he is really hoping that the commission is going to approve the purchase so he can get the pans that fit, that are, designed for that oven. And he can use it together.
I'm really struggling with the fact that they bought an oven that can only have special design plans. I think that's our question is, that
Yeah.
only Ed can answer, right, Donna? That's not something we expect you to answer is,
Yeah,
are they specialty pans or they just need smaller pans?
a lot bigger, larger, I believe.
Oh, then
to
they
fit.
they need larger pans.
Ed would have to tell you what
Okay.
they need, but there's some pan that fits in that oven that they would like to have with that new oven. That's all I know.
Yeah, so, okay, so like, we have a grill at home that, my husband wanted the grill attachment for. And he had an attachment from another one, and it didn't work in there, it
Right.
didn't fit right,
Didn't
so then
quite fit right.
he had to buy another one,
Mhm.
because he needed the exact one that fit.
Right, for that
So
one.
if that's the case, should we just assume that's the case?
I don't, I
And
think they want different size, are we talking about baking pans? A pan that makes the oven function, they bought a stove, it didn't require bakeware. I think this goes a little bit beyond what we're talking about, and when we, even though it's a small amount of money, I could have done a whole lot more with some of that funding for employees, and I could have reworked the devices instead of returning $7,000 and said, well, I can add on some webcams for everyone's office, and we didn't do that because that wasn't the project. It's an additional expense due to the change in the project. So for me, it's just consistency, is that if we start saying, yes, we'll let you, add on something else, because it's a little amount of money, it's not consistent with our process. Because I do recall when the oven was proposed, it was just an oven.
Mhm.
It's not a specialty, it wasn't anything extraordinary. That's where I stand.
He hasn't given you more information, like,
That's what he said in the email, to us.
yeah.
I think that it's sort of like your gas grill situation. It says, it perfectly fits this oven
Mhm.
and would be the ideal to use, the ideal tray to use.
Okay, so another way to look at this is, what if they're making another request to the ARPA to buy pans?
Are we opening it up? We have, right? Because I think
Yeah.
that, like, and I say specifically only because the selectman came to me and asked about, because we're using that meeting room and we outfit it with different things. Can we use the money that we have left over to do something different in the room than the intent? And we talked about how, I mean, it's a little bit different. I wanna hear more from him specifically about why they need, what it is, and if he,
So
this is the third or fourth time we've asked, he could come here.
how is this different than the new second ambulance and they purchased supplies to put in the ambulance?
Because they asked for a project that was the
They asked
ambulance
for
and
an
supplies.
ambulance, they did ask
did.
for an ambulance and supplies, so his
Right.
request should have been stove and tray.
Except for
Supplies.
accessories.
It should have been stove and
Yeah.
supplies.
Right,
Okay, they forgot to say supplies, okay, so I am, you know, folks, after every meeting, Edagata comes and wants to know, and he's, I just think she's anxious, yes, and he's, hoping that Christina, you will, bring the voice of reason and sense, as chair, and, I would support her.
can I ask why, if I could,
Yeah.
why he can't come before us? We said that, and
Yeah.
he's choosing
So
not
last
to,
time he had a doctor's appointment, and so he knew the meeting was, maybe he forgot, I don't know, you know, I just don't know. But he knew this was his last chance before the breakfast, and he is hoping that we are going to take action on it.
How much of the pans, or whatever it is? He's got he's got $905 balance, how much of that
I
is he
don't know,
proposing to spend?
It was just,
do you remember?
no, it wasn't very much though.
It wasn't very much.
It wasn't the whole $900. It was a couple hundred, I think.
I mean, if it's something that is part of the function of the stove.
right,
It's like saying you can't buy a truck unless you have tires with the truck. You don't have to make each individual request specifically, I get it. I sort of see it as both sides. If they are legitimately required to use the stove correctly, then I think it's part and parcel. If it's just, we wanna have new pans that are larger or that whatever, and it's literally just an accessory that's not needed, then I think even though it seems silly because it's such a small thing, for the sake of consistency, he has to come back and just make the request. So I would be fine with him being told if they're a necessary part of the function of the stove, he can go ahead and spend the money now ahead of the breakfast, but if not,
So the necessary part, they fit perfectly, and it would be very efficient to have those for their breakfast. Otherwise, probably they have to just go buy something that doesn't exactly fit, and they could, you know, get by with that, but maybe, you know, maybe they need two little pans instead of one big one or something that doesn't fit, it's not great.
I mean, are they saying? You're kind of stuck in the middle of this, because he hasn't come before us in months. Do they not have pans in the senior center they can put in this
Well,
oven?
they could probably rummage up some old thing that they have.
But I mean, so you're telling me they have no, I mean,
Just like Christina's husband,
Yeah.
I'm gonna rummage.
but they've been
the old
cooking
drawer.
with pans, none of the pans they have
They
function,
probably, you
they
know,
probably want new pans.
they probably want new pants.
Okay, that's different
Just
to
like,
me.
well, I mean, do they need it, you know, do you need a new thing for your grill? You can work around anything, Troy can work around something's
I'm
not
all
great.
for new things, so
Oh,
I think we
there
should
you
just
go.
give them the new pans and everything else.
Yeah, but I mean, so let's, you use Troy as an example, he wanted he received that we funded a new skid steer. And could have used and talked about the accessories he could have got.
Yeah.
He didn't come back to us and say, well, I can't do this with that accessory because I need that accessory. So is it an accessory to only enhance, or is it required to use the stove? And I think that's what we're asking for. Like, you can buy a particular stovetop, an induction stovetop, and you can't use the pans you have, because you have to have specialty pans. That, to me, would be very different than we need some different sized pans. And for me, it's just about being consistent with, how we run each project, because they were very clear, and we only need the stove and this hookup, there was nothing additional within the senior center we were gonna need.
Could we empower Donna to use a judgment call when she does get the information from him, whether or not it is necessary? Since, I don't know.
I mean, is it the grill piece on top? You know, like my gas stove has a certain piece that fits on top that you have to,
No,
you
it's
know,
baking pan.
it's baking
Goes
pans.
inside. But if you get the wrong, the wrong pan's not gonna fit. I just know that from basic baking.
Yeah.
Some pans fit, some pans don't.
Yeah.
He wants the one that goes with the oven. Cause that's the one.
I'm
that
struggling
fits.
with the fact that we bought an oven that sells pans with it, I don't know of any
Oh,
ovens.
yes, yes. When I bought my new oven, the, pan came with it.
Well, this was like a commercial stove.
Right.
This wasn't, yeah,
Right,
this
right,
was,
right.
it's not, this isn't just a regular home stove, so maybe
Right. So
there
maybe-
is,
maybe
there is
it's a
something
thing.
different. I mean, I don't know, like, I don't know, I'm not.
Can we ask him to send something so that the committee can look at it and we can make,
Like a picture.
yeah, I wanna know what it is he wants to purchase, how much it is, its
Okay.
function,
Okay,
compared to what they have. I think,
okay,
Yeah.
okay, so Christina and you, as chair, you're gonna ask the questions of him, right? As that Erica just
Okay.
asked, so we can.
Yeah,
make a
so I'll
decision.
send him an email and say, okay.
Yeah, so Erica has 3 questions.
let's not mistake this is not Erica has question, this is how are we functioning our
Okay.
projects, and I just wanna remain consistent. I'm not trying to not use the money where it needs to go, it's just trying to be consistent about how we are asking each individual requester to fund their projects, and we asked a lot of questions about what they would need when we determined how much money they needed. So that we could say, you're gonna need some extra, you need a new stove, you're gonna need extra things, we were factoring similar concepts into how much we gave out in the beginning. And this was never a discussion point, so I just wanna know what it is we would be saying yes to before I could feel comfortable.
So, yeah, so in between me, like, if he does come back and say, yes, we need the, we have the Model 3000 and we must use the Model 3000 special pans in order to function, then we can say, yeah, you can do it. But if he's like, no, any old pan can work in there, we have plenty of any old pans already, then no. So, all right, we'll see what he says. What else? I think that was that one. The library retaining wall, nobody's heard any update about that? I
They
didn't
were
hear
working
anything.
on that, weren't they trying to put an RFP together? Did they reach out to
They-
you? Mike?
When we left our last ARPA meeting, they had come in the beginning, and then they had left, I thought they had left the building, they are actually meeting upstairs, and I didn't hear anything else from them, but I think we gave them, prior to the meeting, in an informal conversation, a lot of information about how they could move forward.
Mhm.
So you're saying they didn't reach out to you, we had said you were a source, we, pointed in a direction of the roof RFP, and that, certainly my office would help them, so I can follow up with Jenny.
So the remaining things on here are all, we're not likely to have another project that's gonna return more than $5,000, I don't think. So we are getting down to the bottom of what's left for money. But we do have money now to approve one or at least one of these other projects. because we just got 54,000 back, we had. We had a lot more than that, but lots of contingency funds too.
We had two versions of the tracker.
Yeah.
So this one is still, this version is still, okay.
Yep.
So it looked like, okay, we were 28,000
Left.
short if we voted
vote.
yes on both.
Right,
Total remaining 82,485.
and that has contingency built into, so,
So we only have 80, if we didn't use the contingency, we have 82,000. And I think if I can't, I would hold off on taking action on those until we can see what the RFP from I think River Road is closest to going out to bid.
yeah,
And seeing what kind of project costs come back with that before we commit to any additional projects.
yeah,
I'm nervous after, another year and a half, since we gave the money that did have, we did put some contingency in it, what that will look, I'm curious what that will look like, and then we'll probably feel more comfortable after that, expending those.
And both of those other projects, but like the playground, they can't do that until the summer anyway.
Right, and Phil, if I recall, Phil had said that wasn't going to be enough for all of it, they were going to have to make up the difference. And I think that's still the case, I'd be curious to hear from him if we're considering action, if he could be here. But it couldn't happen right now, so if they're really in the next couple of months gonna get that RFP out, we'd have a sense of what kind of real costs we're looking at.
Between the facility study, the River Road Park, and what was the other one?
The library.
Call line.
Right, they put their
Those three things
Get
I
out.
think could go
above.
So, yeah. I don't know where that RFP stands with Fund Health, but
Yeah, I don't want to say it closed, but the responses came here. I didn't know they were coming till it showed up.
there were some.
There was at least one.
Okay.
And so, right, are we gonna need some, or is it the opportunity for us to talk about using that contingency for some of those where the construction costs have skyrocketed, because where else would we get the funds for those?
We basically have 14 months to appropriate the remaining funds, which is not, that's a long time. And then they have an additional 2 years to expend. I mean, I think there's still a long runway.
I think, and I'm just gonna pick the playground one because I think it's the easiest to get done. I think, I shouldn't assume anything these days. But that if we had enough money to say yes to that project, then I think we could still do that once a couple of these, have come back with some real costs, we know.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And there's no rush anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I would love
They could
to
start it tomorrow.
take action so that they could get started, but really River Road is where I'm concerned about. I think Carl still feels like they'll be able to do it with the funds they have and the plan that they have, but I'd like to see that from some bidders.
So I could also just send an email to the library and to Phil and say, we got some funding back, but we also know that some of these others might be over, and but we also know you can't act on these things until the spring or summer anyway, so we're still gonna hold. And
I think I don't know about the playground, but I think the library was already in CIP,
yeah,
which is good, so it stays in that process.
I think playground is.
Was it too?
Yeah. Yeah, so, but I can ask them both too, to just let me know, like, what is their timing for getting it done, cause like, Phil's got a very constrained time where I'm sure he can do it, and I don't know about the library, but, just what would their timing be? So we can take that into account.
And,
But we also had said to them, we're waiting for the facility study.
yeah, and we have a much larger budget certainly I don't ever wanna say we can find funds out of it to be able to find it a few dollars if something were to go over. I think the library, we know they have some independent money that they could, work in another direction if they had to with theirs. Parks and Rec, if that comes in way over,
There's nothing.
there's nothing else allocated. And so before we give away, some of these dollars, kind of want to see how that flushes out. That's where I stand.
I mean, there are towns that are getting, I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars just to put in a pickleball court.
Yes, well over what we thought.
Yeah. So we talk about mobilization and all the materials and all that stuff, 220 grand is like.
Yeah.
That's what it costs to put in a foundation replacement.
And the pickleball court that, has LoCIP dollars, they're planning to put in the RFP using separate funds, but if they can combine some of those construction costs, hoping that it will keep it down, because yes, the costs are well above, what they were when these things were proposed.
I mean, at some point, we don't necessarily want to hold these projects
No.
forever, so at some point, it may be worth telling some of those other projects, you know, if you don't get a final price soon, you're gonna be on the hook for the balance, or you're gonna have to restrict the scope.
Yes.
Because, you know, if they don't move quick enough, I mean, there's still plenty of time, but we don't wanna wait so long and then allocate the remaining money and have everybody trying to rush to get it bid or spent or whatever. But I still think we're going into the winter, there's not gonna be anything happening anyways.
Yeah, like you said, it's 14 months to encumber it.
Right, yeah, that's still plenty of time. I don't think anything we've seen even is a 2-year project.
All right. So I don't think we have anything else to do or talk about, really. I think we had a couple people
There's one online,
that wanted to speak.
the other one is me.
All right, okay. I don't know, I see it's Arthur, I don't know, Arthur, if you had anything, if you're present to speak, anything?
No, not at this time.
Okay.
Hey, thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks. So I think we'll move to adjourn. Great. And I don't think we need to meet for,
On the 18th.
no,
Donna, do you know offhand, I was trying to look online when the date of the senior center breakfast is it next weekend?
About the date.
It might be this weekend.
We're still.
Let's go for it.
well, okay, well, it would be the 6th, and if we did the 1st and 3rd, but I don't think we need to, there's nothing else to decide.
Yeah,
No, I'm just saying if it coincided, if their planned event was after, we could take action on something or something.
Yeah, well,
Still plan to meet in November.
yeah, that would be really good,
I don't know. I'll have to have it.
that would be November 6th.
Thank you.
Good. So I'm gonna do my agenda early for November 6th. And I'm gonna reply to Ed. And I'm gonna send Phil and the library. An update. And, yeah.
I can send it.
All right.